The toxicology report in Michael Hastings' death has been released, and some of the details in that toxicology report are fascinating. There were a number of rumors being spread about how he was possibly drunk at the time of the car accident. For those of you who somehow didn't hear the story, Michael Hastings did die in a tragic car accident a few months ago. His Mercedes was caught speeding on surveillance, and he crashed into a tree, and it ultimately led to his death. He died instantly upon impact. Now, the toxicology report indicates that he had some marijuana in his system and that he had a tiny amount of amphetamine, okay? And I want to read you the exact portion of the toxicology report that indicates this. It says, toxicology shows a small amount of amphetamine in the blood, consistent with possible intake of methamphetamine many hours before death. Unlikely to have an intoxicative effect at the time of the accident. Marijuana was present in the blood, but mostly in the form of its metabolite, indicating intake hours earlier. All other drugs were negative, and of course that includes alcohol as well. So the reason why I bring that up is because now there are a number of stories written that I feel are very misleading, and it is upsetting me. Now, I should note that drugs like Adderall or Ritalin, legal prescription drugs, have amphetamine in it. I mean, that's the active ingredient in those drugs. So without really exploring into that before writing these articles, people have decided to say, oh, he had meth and marijuana in his system. One example that I can give you is an article written for LA Weekly by Dennis Romero, and he had the headline that said the following: breaking, Michael Hastings coroner's report reveals likely meth and marijuana use. I despise that headline, because that makes it seem as if he was smoking marijuana and smoking meth before he got into his car that night, and that was not the case.
And so I want to break it down a little further. Now, of course, Michael Hastings, great investigative reporter, did the legendary story on Stanley McChrystal, the general that was leading our efforts in Afghanistan. He had to step down, the general did, after that report because of what Michael revealed. And most of the articles talk about, oh, there was conspiracy theories because of that. And it seems like they're going out of their way to say, like, everything was normal, he was a druggie. You see that? The government didn't do anything wrong. It was that he took a lot of drugs. Now, let me explain further to give you more details as to the kind of propaganda that's out there in every article I've read so far. Number one, as Anna explained in the LA Weekly article, that's the headline. Not the toxicology report actually says none of the drugs had anything to do with the crash. That's what the report says.
The toxicology report, 17 pages, sorry to interrupt you, Cenk, says that he was not intoxicated at the time of the crash. That is the lead. That's what should be in the headline.
Not intoxicated, had nothing to do with the crash, which the LA Weekly article acknowledges later on, almost at their very last paragraph. Now, they have 12 paragraphs in the article, I counted, okay? And a lot of them are just one sentence. In some of the ones that involve drugs, it's several sentences mentioning drugs in a couple of different ways. But I went with the most conservative. Said if a paragraph has drugs in it, I'm going to mark it as one. If it doesn't, I'm going to mark it as the other, right? Out of the 12 paragraphs, 6 of them mention drugs. Now remember, the drugs had nothing to do with the accident, but the headline is drugs. 6 out of the 12 paragraphs and multiple sentences within those paragraphs have to do with drugs, 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 drugs. Now, don't think it's just the LA Weekly. Then I looked around a little bit. Then I went to the Atlantic. And what do we have there? Michael Hastings had relapsed before fatal accident. That's the headline over there, okay? And again, oh my God, meth, marijuana. You see that? You see that? Just look away. It's a perfectly normal accident. It was just that he was a druggie, and that's why he died. And by the way, also in the report, they say that oh, he was going very fast, above 60 miles an hour. Okay, look, the cameras show him going very fast, show him running a red light, above 60 is fast, but it's not like it's 120. I don't know, maybe it was. It just says above 60.
Yeah, there was a witness that we spoke to who said that it seemed as if he was going top speed. So I don't have any doubt that he was speeding at the time of the crash. It's just not something that you would expect from Michael when you know him personally. I mean, a lot of people who know him personally will say, like, he was a very careful driver. And now that we know that he wasn't under the influence of something, he wasn't intoxicated at the time of the crash, this all just seems very strange.
By the way, the so-called meth, it's an Adderall. And they say he took Adderall. It was, you know, on occasion. And it explains that it's very likely and certainly very possible that it was a small amount from Adderall that he had taken hours ahead of time. So that doesn't, like, Adderall and meth, do they sound like the same thing to you? I understand the active ingredient, etc. But when you put meth in a title, and when you lead with meth, when you lead with drug relapse as your title, doesn't it give you a little different feeling than, oh, he had some trace amounts of Adderall or marijuana that he had taken long before the accident that had nothing to do with the accident?
And these reporters know what they're doing, because the majority of people are too busy to sit there and read an entire article or to investigate an entire article. So they go based on what the headline says and what the few first paragraphs say. And I just hate how misleading it is. He was not intoxicated at the time of the crash. That's what the headline should have been.
Again, on the Connor Simpson written piece in the Atlantic, it goes, again, throughout the whole article, headline, etc. At the very end, after he was relapsing, his family was worried, he's got all this stuff in his system, finally they get to the paragraph. Oh, coroner's officials said Hastings had traces of amphetamine in his system consistent with possible intake of methamphetamine many hours before the death, as well as marijuana. Neither were considered a factor in the crash, according to toxicology reports. A sad end for Hastings, whatever its reasons, they say. Oh, so neither was considered a factor, according to the report, but you didn't lead with that. You put that at the very, very, very end, after you got everybody to believe that he was a druggie who apparently caused his own accident and this fate to happen to him. Look, I still don't know what happened that night.
Yeah, none of us know what happened that night. I mean, there's speculation, and as someone who is supposed to share information that's based on fact, I feel uncomfortable speculating one way or another. But I will say, the fact that his body, was cremated without the permission from his family is questionable. The way the whole accident happened was questionable. The way these articles are written are questionable. Our efforts to reach out to the LAPD in regard to their investigation, questionable. They would not answer a single question. Mercedes-Benz, I contacted them over and over again, asking them for information about their crash tests. Is it likely that a car will have the same experience that Michael Hastings' car did upon a high-impact crash? They would not answer a single question. I don't understand why it's so difficult. You guys have done crash tests. Tell me what is likely to happen to a car if it's speeding and it crashes into a tree at that speed.
So over 60 is not that high. If I'm going above 60 in a Mercedes and I hit something, is the car going to explode? And answer me this. This is the part I really don't understand. And look, there could be very logical explanations for this stuff, but actually the fact that the toxicology report shows that he was not high leads to more questions. Doesn't say, as every single report now is saying, it's not fair, I haven't read every report, but all the ones that I have read, all these ones say, no, move along, government's right, shut up, we told you it's his fault, right, for taking the drugs. But in reality, of course, we told you the report is the opposite. But I don't understand how the engine winds up 200 feet behind the car. I just don't understand it. So it's like if LAPD comes out and says, oh, no, okay, here's what happened. Like, let's say that there were drugs in his system that affected him. Okay, that would be like, then you would begin to say, okay, I get it now, right? And that sucks, but I don't know how Michael was that night, maybe that was it, right? If they say, oh, well, of course, the engine it hit the tree and then it bounced back 200 feet. I don't know, give me something, right? So right now, there's all these questions, and the people who say that they have the answer either way are driving me crazy. But I guarantee you this, the establishment media is done with this story. That's it. Now the official story is Michael Hastings took drugs, it was his fault, and if you question it from here on forward, even if you ask legitimate questions, you don't say you have conclusions, whatever it might be, it doesn't matter. From now on, you're a conspiracy theorist, because the official government position is supported by the official propaganda mechanisms of the media.